We good? We are live. Good deal. GM's tricks of the trade. What are we doing? What are we calling this one? 69?
Yeah, this one's about. No, never mind. I'm not gonna even go there. There is a surprise for you today in the panels. Though.
Oh, Lord of mercy, God. There you go. And well, hopefully I won't X you out like I did on the AMA Tuesday and kill the stream. That's my objective for the day. Keep it rolling. Yeah. But yes, we're here for Jim's Tricks of the Trade 69. I still have not gotten my numbers lined up. I'm on 67 and Tim and Chuck are on 69. So I'm not sure if they can't count or I can't count or what's going on. One of these days I'll actually take the time to figure out what the Sam Hill is going on. I did talk to Peter Bradley though, and he said that we've got enough content here for a book. So
what does that mean? Can you translate that for me?
So we base the size of a book on the amount of words that we have. Whether it's an adventure or whatever, I can tell Peter a number, and if I tell him what type of book it is, if I say it's got 24,000 words and it's an adventure, he's going to have a good idea of how many pieces of art and how much maps need to go into it, and then boom, he's got a size of the book. It's going to be 24 pages, he says, or 18 pages, or 12 pages, or whatever. So I shot him an email or a text just before this stream and said, hey, we got about, and I'm estimating, I really don't have any idea how much we've got. We've got about 70,000 words at a 5 by 5 by 8 tall. What can we do? He said 140 pages. That's a good size GM's Tricks of the Trade book, so it might be time to put some of this in a book.
Yeah.
I'll roll it out.
We could do illustrations of like wolves and spiders with it too. That would be cool. We could have.
I swear to God.
You have to admit that's kind of unusual that we don't have that in the books anywhere.
Well, it's funny too because when you start breaking down the history of the company and the way we did things in the beginning, we didn't really do a lot of those types of illustrations. Peter or whoever would do an illustration of an event, and that would go in the book. Because in the beginning we didn't have a monster book, of course. Not until 2008 or 7. I can't remember when the M&T came out, whenever the hell that was. But so that's the first time we did actual spot illustrations where it's just this monster or what have you. And we've been very slow in migrating to that to that platform. And Peter rarely, if you look at his stuff, especially the early stuff, I would say a good quarter of it, maybe a fifth of it, it would be like a hill giant doing something. One of my favorite Peter Bradley pieces is the hill giant carrying the cow over its shoulder. Just a great piece, but it's an event. It's not something that you're going to be able to use on token. You know what I mean? So we're going to have to scrabble around for lots of art. How's it going, Bifford? Lord Dalius Jason has joined us. What are they talking about? Whose voice is that? Grape Ape, how's it going, man? Epi, what you talking about, Chuck?
They're talking about they can hear my voice.
Oh,
it's me.
You're
Chuck.
The ethereal voice in the background. That's right.
Speaking of art, do you recognize the piece for today's stream?
That's from the Monsters and Treasures.
Right.
That is it's in the D's, isn't it?
No, it's not. I am disappointed in you.
What is it?
Can anybody in the chat tell me what that is? Come on. Y'all should know.
A lich? It's not a lich.
No, it is in the M&T, though. No, you're going to go cheat and look. I see you looking for the drawer of holding.
Yeah. Yeah, but then I'd have to look through that 500-page book. That's exhausting. Tell him to use the mic rather than yelling out the window.
I've got a mic right here for you, Dalius.
Is that me or is that?
I think he's talking about I'm not real sure, honestly. Anyway, today's featured piece is a crypt thing.
Oh yeah. That's from Classic Monsters, isn't it? I think that was originally in Classic Monsters.
Probably. It came originally from 𝐓𝐫𝐢𝐜𝐤𝐬.
Yeah, then it'd be Classic Monsters for us. I can't. That book just won't go away.
No, I love it.
Jason knew what it was.
Dude, when we play sessions here at the house, I'll pull out the 𝐓𝐫𝐢𝐜𝐤𝐬 and look at it just to unnerve the players. Sometimes I don't even have to use something in there, but they're like, oh shit,
Oh yeah, in the old days when we played AD&D, if that Fiend Folio came out, everybody knew, oh, we're all gonna die, because every monster in that stupid book was it was death this, death that.
Yeah.
The map toughness test didn't really do the job. You needed to wrap it around a rock and throw it through a window to prove it. I can do that. I can take it outside and park the truck on it and try to do a little tire spin if we can get it going.
That's right. The
Fiend
flump. I
Folio.
remember that thing. Oh
I
my
remember.
God. Yeah. Jason's right.
Wasn't the Vegapygmy in that book too?
What is it?
The Vegapygmy, wasn't that from the Fiend Folio?
It might have been. I don't think it was though. It doesn't seem like it fits for some reason. I don't know why.
No, that was the Monsters and or the Monster Manual 2.
Yes,
I think that was
Monster Manual 2 because it came out after with Barrier Peaks.
First time in street fighting it might just let me know. Yeah, Piper, you got a harder job than the rest of us.
Damn.
Without a doubt. But at any rate, oh yeah. So what are we here for? What are we doing? GM's Tricks of the Trade. So we're here for GM's Tricks of the Trade. Number 69, doing something. Horror, conflict and horror. So I guess we've done the last 4 weeks. This will be the 5th week where we're discussing horror, and we've done the last where we're just kind of talking about things to do at the table. And I wanted to wrap it up with just some stuff to actually bring combat into your horror game, you know, to bring the whole, the bone and gristle to the screens and to your table so that you leave your players a little bit stunned with, you know, the vibrant descriptions of their characters' sudden demise or what have you. I do want to just do a quick editorial. This was on my mind earlier. So as those of you who are regulars to the stream, or those of you who know me, know I read a lot of history. I read a lot of history, and I don't just read, like, if I find a subject, like I got interested a few months ago in the Great African War from 1996 to 2006. So I shopped around on the internet for quite a while until I found about 7 or 8 books. I bought them and I read them so that, you know, you just get a better picture if you read more than one book on an event. And I'm seeing with, you know, everything that's in the news these days, lots of people are reading history books to kind of try to grasp things. And that's wonderful. And that's great. I think history, we all should read more of it. But I'm just going to give this one editorial comment. Never buy a history book written by a journalist. Just don't do it. Journalists have their own skill set, and that's wonderful, but they are not historians. Just don't do it. When you pick up a history book, immediately go to that back flap and read about the author and make sure that it's an accredited historian from, you know, Harvard or Oklahoma City. Oklahoma Press has some great Native American histories. It's just, there's a lot of good presses out there. There's a lot of good professors out there. Get someone who's actually studied how to actually interpret history, how to dissect sources, and how to actually bring it together in a coherent whole that isn't filled with judgmental. What is that old saying? I absolutely detest the saying, history is written by the victors. History is not written by the victors. An idiot said that. I don't know who said it, but he was an idiot. A history is written by historians. That's what it is. So find yourself a good historian and read that history. And then when you're done, find another historian that wrote about the same thing and read another history on it. And then you'll start getting a good picture of it. But yes, just don't. All credit to journalists for whatever they're doing, but history is not their thing. Lord Dalius, you know what I'm talking about. So there you go. Yeah. I am a passionate reader of history, and if I pick up a book and the first thing I see about the author is New York Times or whatever, Washington Post, or whatever newspaper, I close the book and I put it back on the shelf. The only historian I can say, or journalist I said that I read, was the author who did A Perfect Storm. I can't remember that guy's name now. And I try to avoid history at all costs. There you go, great thing. And I think he did Black Hawk Down, something like that. But yeah, just so anyways, that editorial aside, let's dive into GM's Tricks of the Trade. If you haven't, please give us a follow. And I want to remind everybody that we do all of these GM's Tricks that we've done, which is 67 or 69 times 5, whatever that is. I'm not sure how many we've done. How many would that be? Like 300? I don't know, 260 something.
I think we have a count. It's up above 300. It's actually more a
Yeah,
little bit because there's a few little strands laying around there, stuff.
in troll parlance, it's an ass ton. That's what that's what we call an ass ton. Yeah, there we go. So 335 to 345 or so, a big fat bunch. There you go, Lord Delius. But yeah, we've got these up and online somewhere. I'm not really sure where, but if you go to our website and click the GM tips, I think it says it'll take you there and you can dive in. I think you got to pay $1. Is that right, Chuck? $1 to get on the Patreon and
yeah, to get on there.
And you got access to all of them. And we are looking at a book here soon, putting it all together. We all said a shit ton. There you go.
That'll work.
Oh, it's better than a ton of shit. So, I think I've said more cuss words in the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, Tim's over in a corner somewhere, curled up in a fetal position.
Hey, he's got his internet fixed. Where is Tim? Is he with us today?
Where is that? Hiding probably.
All right, so let's dive into this last conflict and horror. So basically, what we're talking about here is just kind of some of the things to do to bring as you're bringing the game, your horror game, to its conclusion. Things to do things that you should have already done that'll help the final. I hate the whole final boss combat thing. I hate that everything ends in a final boss combat, and it doesn't always have to do that, but frequently it does, obviously, and there's usually some kind of strife between some kind of creature and the players, whatever it is, whether it's horror or normal. But this is what we're diving into today. So Jason, so this is really funny. So Jason and I have worked together for a decade, I don't know, a very long time. And I know Jason, when I first met him, way back when, he had written a bunch of stuff for Eden Studios zombie games. I can't remember the name of Jason's zombie game is. So horror is kind of his thing. It's what he cut his teeth on. So I did all these GM tricks of the trade on horror. I didn't even think to holler at Jason to come join us. It never crossed my mind. All flesh must be eaten. There you go. Yeah, Jason goes way back with that stuff. Good stuff. But so he's here to join us in the last lap, which is better than nothing. So the first trick of the trade is hidden in the shadows. Is that what I call it here? So this is what I think a lot of movies do this, of course, but a lot of horror stories kind of ease you into this. But this is just a good way to do it, especially if your game's running. It's only going to work if your game's running for 4 to 8 hours or 4 or 5 sessions or something like that, where you're basically taking whatever creatures or event or happenstance that is bringing the horror tone to your game, to the table. You want to bleed it into every session just a little bit. You want to have it somewhere in the background. You want to have them see something or encounter some kind of, apparition of or something. Just in some way have this creature, and we're just going to say creature for the lack of, as an all-inclusive thing, have this creature be prevalent in many of the games, but not very prevalent. In the very beginning, it should maybe be a sideways glance where they see, this witch in a hat or something like that. That's precisely what I did. And you just kind of bleed this in so that this figure or this, whatever it is, mirage, whatever it is that you're using, becomes kind of the background for the story that you're weaving. Or it's not even the background, it is part of the background for the story that you're weaving. And that way, when you get to the final, or when they finally encounter, or however that is that plays out at your table, they've got this kind of association with it already. And as the tension builds, and as they realize that this creature is whatever it is that they're fighting, they know now that it's been here the whole time. It's been part of the story the whole time. So now they have to start questioning, does this creature know more about us than we do it? All kinds of stuff like that. I mean, it really is there to kind of unsettle the players just a little bit. And that's mostly what we've been talking about the whole, this whole 5 sessions is really just to kind of unsettle the players so that they're questioning everything, they're doubting everything, and they're just a little bit nervous because they don't understand what's going on. And if you've got a villain, the creature that has been here for a little while, then it's just a good way. I mean, it's just a good tone setter. What in the world image do you have in the shadows there?
It's a thing hiding in the shadows. I literally typed
What
in
is
"hidden
that?
in the shadows" and that's what came up. I thought, well, that'll work.
It looks really cool. It actually reminds me of Slender Man, that game that was so popular about 5 years ago. So, which is pretty spooky in and of itself. Bleed it in. I see what you did there. Less is more to let the imagination fill in. Yeah, absolutely, and that's kind of what we're talking about. Major villains should always work through minions. Vampires don't survive for thousands of years by showing up to face their enemies in person. Yeah, but Jason, what I'm talking about, if they see that vampire once or twice, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think my favorite vampire movie of all time is Bram Stoker's Dracula with Keanu Reeves, doesn't it? Yeah, it's got Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder and somebody that plays the vampire. And in that, they see the vampire. Our characters see the vampire a couple of times, but they don't really encounter it. They don't really know what it is. Well, in the beginning, I guess Keanu Reeves actually sits down. Gary Oldman, that's who it is. So stuff like that. Yeah, Jason. So that's what I'm talking about. Just so that it kind of weaves into the story a little bit, but absolutely you don't want to confront the beginning. If you confront the beginning, yeah, Jason's right. You're going to spoil the whole. You're going to spoil the whole kind of building up the unsettling movement of where you're moving into. Yeah, Gary Oldman is just, man. There's so many movies he's done. Immortal Beloved with Beethoven, he was spectacular in. He was super cool in The Professional. Loved him in that movie. Gary Oldman is a unstoppable actor. I just love that dude. If he's in a movie, I mostly watch the movie. Ironically, I didn't enjoy his what's the science fiction movie he did with Bruce Willis? Shit, Fifth Element.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I enjoyed the. I like. Is it okay? I enjoyed actually the cool thing about Fifth Element that I thought was really awesome, and this is me showing my age, but that opening sequence, that he's the cab driver driving around in New York City or wherever the hell he is.
Heavy metal.
That was so much like heavy
I
metal.
I agree 100% with you, man. Totally.
Yeah. Instantly thrown back into the early heavy metal, and I still think that animated heavy metal is a fantastic movie. It's just fun, and it really screams its time.
I had the wife watch it with me the other night.
Oh yeah, Fifth Element or heavy metal?
Heavy metal. She lasted about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And she complained because there was this repeating theme throughout the movie that I really can't mention here on stream, but you all know what I'm talking about. And she said that was the only reason I wanted to watch it. I was like, no, I grew up with this movie.
That theme appeared a lot in both the magazine and the movie. It was prevalent there quite a bit. In good times, yeah. Gary Oldman's finest moment is the pimp in True Romance. Okay, so Jason and I, we watch a lot of movies and TVs, and we don't always see eye to eye. But I'm going to give Jason gold stars for that one. True Romance is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I love that movie. And Gary Oldman, when he plays, what's his name, Jason? What's his character's name? He's half Apache, I think he says he is, or something like that. Whatever his name is. But he's this one-eyed dude, drug dealing. Man, if you have not seen True Romance, get some popcorn, get yourself a Dr. Pepper, sit back and watch it. It is cinema beyond cinema. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful movie. Absolutely. Yeah, I can't remember what his character's name is. Damn it. It's a good movie. All right, so let's dive forward into Drexel. There you go. Yes, Drexel. Hey, Drexel. That's just a good movie. All right, so the next one up is The Slow Death. Drexel. I just love that movie. That whole sequence where they're sitting around a coffee table and they're pushing the light back and forth. Who was that? Christian Slater. It's just a good movie. That is just a good movie. So the next one, The Slow Death. What do we got? What do we got on our panel here? Oh, we got The Shining. I don't recognize the others. I see what's his name in there? Sam Jackson is in that movie. Yeah, he dies pretty early on though. All right, so what are we doing? So we're doing The Slow Death. So with this one, it's kind of, especially as you're leading into the final encounter, batter your characters up a little bit, knock them around somewhat. whether it's an environmental thing where they, get hurt or what have. That's not what. That's number 3. I think I skipped this one. Oh yeah, yeah. So I jumped right into trick of the trade number 3. I skipped number 2. So let's go back to number 2. The slow death. So the slow death is like it's really something to wear your characters down, and your game's probably got some mechanics for this. I know some go overboard with it, some don't, but the idea is the best way to kind of put it is the idea is disease. Give your characters some kind of disease, have them impacted by some kind of. Hey Chuck, your microphone's on. We we can hear your phone. Yeah, whatever device you're on there. Yeah. Yeah, madness points, things like that. Anything that any kind of mechanic that your game has in there, and even if it's something as simple as a fear spell, anything like that, that you can just wear the actual characters down with mechanically wise, so that as they're going forward, they've got other things impeding their progress. It's not just hit points damage. It's not just armor class, reduction or whatever it is. It's actually something that's impeding whatever mechanic it is you're using. Now, in Castles and Crusades, obviously that would be the siege engine, your attribute checks. So if your character has some kind of, I don't know, I was looking at the diseases we got in the Castle Keeper's Guide the other day, but give them something that just kind of impedes their progress forward. And this can originate from any number of things, from a disease, from a diseased rat, that you picked up, or that they're just in an unsettling environment that makes them nervous, so that you can tell them you've got this constant, this constant nagging feeling about something is going wrong. It's making you're having trouble focus, something like that. In that instance, your game didn't have a mechanic, but you built one into it. Instantly, you get a -1 on your initiative. Whatever it is. Something to just kind of weather the characters a little bit as they go forward, so that as they're entering into that final combat or whatever it is, that final conflict, they've already suffered somewhat, and they're already kind of nervous because there's things going on that they don't have control over. It's one of those reasons that I hate that spell so much. What is it? Protection from the environment or whatever, because it always wrecks my mood stuff that I'm doing like that. But yeah, so the idea here is to just kind of grind them down somewhat. All right. Yeah, so, I forget to do this all the time, but if you have any questions, comments, or observations on things that you do geared in these same type of things, please throw them in the comments. We'd all love to dissect them, break them apart, and put them out there. A lot of you guys, like Jason and Chuck, you've DM'd and CK'd for years and years and years, and you've got mountains of information that everybody could benefit from if you throw it into the feed. So don't let me just jibber jabber on with my my half insane rantings. So let's see. Well, maybe it was just me that heard the phone. I don't know. I have no idea. Apparently, it's just me, Chuck. Maybe it was my phone. I don't know what's going on. No, my phone. Steve's crazy. Yeah, there you go. It has been an entertaining. It has been an entertaining about 5 days so far, since Saturday, really. Yeah. I will say this in not a derogatory sense, but since the shackles of 𝐓𝐫𝐚𝐝 have fallen from me, and that project has moved into the printing stage, I have turned my attention to many of the other sides of the company. And been hounding Tim and Chuck and Peter and Davis to no end for about 5 days. So, yeah. Where are we on this? Why is this not? What's going on? I don't understand what you're saying. Yeah. Shut him down. Well, lucky for you, I'm fixing to dive into the Castle Keeper's Guide. So there is that. See, I ran an Amazing Adventures Gen Con a few years ago with the madness rules in play. I had everyone in the party brutally fail their madness checks at their final fight. Nice. It nearly resulted in a TPK. And that's a good thing, but it doesn't necessarily have to end that bad. The whole idea is behind kind of this slow death. The whole idea is to just, again, I keep going back to that same word. It's the unsettling. You just want to unsettle everybody. So as everything goes forward, as they enter into that final conflict, they're already nervous. They're already kind of tired. They're already kind of emotionally drained. And this all sounds like we're trying to torture players, but it really isn't. It's really not the purpose of this whole horror thing. The idea is to make your players feel as if they're in an environment that is scary. And it's really hard to do. It's really hard to do in an RPG. I mean, when you're sitting down in a theater or on your couch and the lights are off and you're watching horror movies and, your senses are deadened and all of these things, and the only thing you can see is in front of you. It's far easier to get startled or scared, and it's far easier to get into the moment when you're watching, I don't know, the movie Halloween. It's the only horror movie I think I've ever seen, but except The Witch, I guess. When you're watching these things, it's easier to get into to do that suspension of disbelief than when you're at an RPG table, because you got 5 or 6 people talking, laughing, you got phones going off, and even all of that aside, you've got everyone pausing every 15 to 20 minutes to roll dice, and all of these things. Any kind of motion in that direction is going to help shatter that disbelief. If you were sitting there watching Halloween at the movie theater and you had to stop every 15 minutes and talk to the person next to you about their popcorn or sweet tarts or whatever, then you're never going to get into the movie. So for RPGs, you really kind of got to go in a different direction to create this kind of uneasiness. And the best way to do that is to set them up in an environment where they don't have a complete understanding of what's going on. The mechanics that they're so very, very used to aren't playing how they want to. And this is where Jason's Madness stuff comes into play, because they don't quite grasp what's happening. And so it just gives them a little bit of that extra oomph. It hopefully will replace that deadening of the senses when you're watching or TV or whatever the hell it is. Unexplained sore symptoms, etc. There is no real mechanical penalty in terms of the game, but the players don't have to know that. Exactly. That's spot on, Willie, because, and that's a perfect example, especially if you're in a dungeon or you're anywhere. There's this great scene that it has nothing to do with horror, but it's in the movie Gladiator. It's Gladiator? Yeah, Gladiator at the very beginning, where they're fixing to execute not Kevin Costner. Who the hell's in there? Whoever's in there. They're fixing to execute the main actor. I don't know. And they got him out in the woods. But he knows, because the freezing cold air, the sword is going to stick. And he said something about sword stick. And sure enough, it does. And it gives him that second moment to respond quickly. And all of those things, all of that environmental condition, all of that stuff is what Willie is talking about. You can actually role play without mechanics. And it's just there to build that sense of suspense or whatever it is that you're shooting for. Who is Stephen talking to? Because I'm only hearing one side of the fun fest here.
Dallas is
so apparently
a little aged.
Do what?
Don't pay no attention to him. He's Canadian.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Red Dragon. I like having crawling things under the skin. No penalties, but boy, watch the hijinks after that. Yeah, that's a really cool way to do it. I actually was just working on a chaos spell that has a little bit of that effect that goes into it in the rune spells. And that's a perfect example, because that's something that the players have picked up, whether it's, what is that crazy ass worm that gets in your eyeballs or whatever it is. I mean, there's all kinds of parasites out there that are just natural, that won't necessarily, incapacitate the character, but can certainly be unnerving and scary. And especially when you're dealing with environments that are filled with, beasts of the undead, the rotting. I was watching Fear of the Walking Dead last night, and there's this scene, one of the characters gets knocked over by one of the walkers, and the walker's right in her face. And I'm sitting there, of course, I've watched 12,000 hours of The Walking Dead, and the first thing I thought was, man, that walker probably has really bad breath, and they've got to sit there having this filth breathed over them. And so you're dealing with creatures in an environment where parasites would be, very, very, very normal. If anyone wants a real primer on horror, this is Jason Bay. If anyone wants a real primer on, for those of you who don't know Jason, Jason, not only did he write All Flesh Must Be Eaten, but he works for Troller Games, and he is the author of Amazing Adventures, quite a few Castles and Crusades things. He's worked on the CKG, he's worked on the Adventures Backpack, and he's got his own game, Night Shift, his own company. Jason, put your Elflair games up there. So Jason's got a lot of street cred. Is that what they call it? Can I use the word street cred? Being from Arkansas. Let's see. So Jason says, if anyone wants a real primer on horror, I recommend moving away from Lovecraft, who has become too cliche at this point. Go for Robert W. Chambers and The King in Yellow I don't know what word. It's a French word. 𝐓𝐫𝐤𝐬. I'm not sure what he's saying there. The King in Yellow was not and should not be part of the Cthulhu myth. It was reading Chambers' original stories, and a canon that has risen out from them is a master class in unsettling weird fiction. Hey, Jet Skiles, how's it going? Well, I'll check that out. Jason. I'm just kind of getting into the horror genre, as you know. Very, very new to it. I read Mountains of Madness not too long ago, and been kind of putting my toes into certain horror movies like The Witch and whatnot. Just kind of entering into it. It's a new genre for me. And honestly, I have wandered into the horror genre because I can't find anything else to watch. And I was like, well, I guess I'll start watching horror because I can't. And I watched that Netflix TV show, the haunting of Hill House Manor. So I don't know, some kind of manor or haunting thing, whatever. Can't we force Chuck to play as a promotional requirement? There you go. Hereditary was scary. I don't know if I've seen Hereditary. I need to add that to my list. Let me get that. I got so much crap going on. Oh, okay. I have watched that trailer about 4 times, so it's worth watching. Is it? All right, I'll check out Hereditary. I really like period pieces. I really liked The Witch and Gretel and Hansel that came out recently because it kind of gets me in that, I don't know, Renaissance period or some such business. I focused the entire last season of my Buffy game on that style of horror, and my players have done nothing. We're having nightmares by the time of the season. That's excellent. That's very good. Let's see, double letters in front of names throw me off. He's going to run that game at 11 p.m. Standard Time. Russell Crowe. Yes, Bifford. That's what it was. Russell Crowe. Absolutely love the movie Gladiator. Are you not entertained? Yeah. Gladiator is just one of those must-see movies. It is an epic movie of just biblical proportions. And Crowe always does a great job on screen. I always recommend watching Crowe anytime he's doing it. He's good actor. I almost was in the massive fight scene at the start. Are you kidding me? Oh, that would have been awesome, Bifford. That opening sequence to Gladiator is one of the best opening sequences to a movie I've seen, and it's probably the best Roman battle I've ever seen on screen. It is. That show Rome comes close, but Gladiator, the first part of Gladiator, the whole movie's great, but the first part was just through the roof. They asked our university for anyone who could do archery or sword work, but I had to work that setting. Oh, that just sucks. Commander Pete. The best horror game I played was as a teenager. One of my mates invented a system that we really didn't fully understand, but it was sci-fi. We were trapped in and off world facility, no sign of anyone alive, then slowly finding signs that was an infection that may have driven people murderously insane. Then we started suspecting each other of being infected. Oh, that's very cool. See, and that's that slow death that we're talking about. That's that slow build that brings you, it's there, it's all around you, it's haunting, you can't quite figure out what's going on, but you're just waiting to get to you, and it's the slow death. It's good. Hey, Chuck, I'm all blurry. Is that me? Is that?
Yeah, that's you.
Oh, it's something I should be doing?
No, I don't know. It's probably your internet.
Yeah, there you go.
It looks good on this end.
All right, that's fine. All right, hey everyone. Oh, that's Streamlabs.
Yeah, I put
no matter how
command
scary
in there
it
for Jason. So anytime we need to, we can just do a command. It's just an exclamation _. It'll bring it up.
Got it. Cool. No matter how scary the monster, the PCs are even scarier. Yeah, there you go. Geek cred, indeed. And once they start fearing each other, go with that uncertainty. Yeah, no, it's just a good, especially if you can get characters kind of caught up into the maelstrom of your horror theme. It's a very, very good thing. The Thing. So Lord Dalius, it's funny you should mention that. That's one of the movies that inspired Gary to plunge into Dungeons and Dragons. I was talking to him years and years ago, and when The Thing came out, obviously the original one, wherever he was living, I think it was Lake Geneva. I'm pretty sure he was living in Lake Geneva at the time, but he went to the theater by himself, or if he went, his buddy went home, and so Gary had to walk home by himself. It was snowing. It was really cold. And he said he could just see things behind every bush, behind every car, everything. It was I can't do this story justice, but when Gary was telling it, it was absolutely awesome. So the Thing has a nice a nice place in my lexicon of things to love.
That's an interesting fact. I had no clue about that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that Gary and I didn't really talk. We talked business a lot, but we mostly talked history and culture and stuff like that. We both kind of had that same interest. So we would, on the rare occasions that it was just Gary and I, that's usually where we went and talking about things like that. And I can't remember why we got started talking on that. It might have been in that we were arguing about King Kong at one point, so it might have been part of that that discussion. But I can't remember. It was just, and those are the things that I wish. Of course, life is what it is. But if I had more time and to go sit with him and talk about that type of stuff, everyone always, and this drives me batshit crazy. Everyone always talks about the lawsuits and the foundation of the company and all of these things that are in the public record that we can all go look up. It's all out there. But what led to this? What led to the 1967 thing? What part of Gary's life led him to that? That's the stuff that fascinates me, and I think that's where the real gem is. Where did all of this come from? What spurred him on to go into this line of, imaginative creation? And that, to me, that stuff is infinitely more fascinating. There's a movie I strongly recommend everybody read it, though I can't remember, or watch it. I can't remember the name of it. It's a Robert E. Howard biopic. Into the Open. Wide Open? Something. It's a fantastic movie, and it's basically about Robert E. Howard and his I don't want to say a love affair, but his romantic relationship with this other woman and growing up in East Plains or wherever the hell he grew up. But definitely, and that's just going to bug me now. It's got some guy in it. Looking up this. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
the whole wide world. Yes, Jason knows. See, Jason and I talk a lot, so he and I probably had this conversation 4 times over the past decade. So, yes, the whole wide world. So if you haven't watched that movie, I have no idea where it is. Yeah, I can't remember the guy. I recognize him. The actor's pretty famous. He did shit, I was watching him in The Cell the other day. He was in one of those Law and Orders or Justice things or whatever those TV shows are called. Shit. Now I'm gonna have to look that up now. It's just gonna become a trivia fest is what this is gonna be.
We will continue the Gem That Tricks the Trade next Thursday at
let's see, here we go. The whole wide world. I got it. Someone's here. Vincent D'Onofrio or whatever.
Even English? What's happening?
I'll type it out. I'll type it out. You all are going to know who he is. He was in the latest Magnificent Seven.
Lawrence Welk?
Yeah. There you go. He's a great actor. He's all over the place. Yes, Jason had already said that. So there you go. But yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I'm so off topic now. What the hell was I talking about? Something. Anyways, The Thing. Yes, this is all Lord Dalius's fault because he got me talking about The Thing. So yeah, clearly Lord Dalius.
Oh, that guy.
You got me way off track on that one. All right, so back to Tricks of the Trade. So, walking hand. So we're going to number 3 there, Chuck.
All right, so a little disclaimer real quick before I unveil this. So I thought, since you're talking about cutting people up and that kind of thing, I thought, you know what? I'm going to get a picture of Michael on there slashing. And I was Googling for a good picture. But I came across something that I just could not ignore. So I included it, and I did 2 pictures in one. So you'll understand as soon as I reveal it here. Here we go. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but you'll love it.
There you go.
And there's the actor on set drinking a Dr. Pepper through the mask.
That's funny. Well, Halloween is one of the few horror movies from the 80s that I watched that I thoroughly enjoyed. Halloween, and that's what that's from, right? That's Halloween there. I absolutely loved Halloween. It was a terrifying movie. Now you guys got me wanting Dr. Pepper, so now I'm gonna have a Dr. Pepper in my treasure trove of. It's from the 70s. Jesus, can't believe that movie was from the 70s. Oh my Lord! Kat and I watched. My wife Kathy. We watched the first episode of Taxi last night. and as I was reading a little whatever, and it was 1978 that first debuted. Your boy youngster, exactly. Yeah, we're getting up there. All right, so number 3. I'm also sending you a ton of. Is that who's dinging me off Skype? Okay, Jason, I'll check it out after the stream. I was born in 1979. That's funny. Yeah, I had been playing D&D for about 3 years in 79. 79. The 70s were a good decade. I really enjoyed the decade. I was coming alive in the 70s. Had my skateboard, had my butt cut, flying down the hills. Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. How's it going, Clever? Yeah, that willpower. Yeah. I got no willpower with Dr. Pepper. All right, so on to trick of the trade number 3. So this kind of goes hand in hand with number 2. And the idea is and this is, again, in your kind of walk into your final battle. Hopefully you've got them from all of these things. You've got them unsettled a little bit. You've got them a little nervous. You've got them focused on vibrant colors or sounds from the last week's tricks of the trade. And now you start nickeling and diming them. Whether it's an environmental damage or small monster damage, wasting attacks, I've called them before, whatever it is, start just banging up their equipment, banging up their flesh, just battering them a little bit. Now you don't want to wipe them out. You don't want to take a lot of do a lot of damage. You don't want to do any of that. But you want them as they're going forward, as they're weaving towards the end here. You want them to feel. You want their characters, not the players. The players, hopefully, you already have unsettled. But you want the characters to actually begin to suffer a little bit, so that when the players bring their characters into this conflict at the end, they're already unsettled. They've got some kind of malaise that's settled upon them that's, causing them an initiative, a slow initiative or what have you. And now they've got actual damage. They've blown a knee out by falling down the steps. Maybe the steps fell underneath them. They fell through it, busted a knee. They busted an elbow. They've got glass in their eyes. Whatever it is that you can do to just kind of grind them away a little bit without doing too much damage. It's just something that's going to emotionally exhaust the player, and that's what you're kind of doing. What you're really trying to do is just building up to this final conflict. However you're going to resolve that through magic, through role-playing, through combat, whatever it is, happenstance, attribute checks, whatever it is, whatever your final conflict is when they go into it, you just kind of want them broken up a little bit. That's what we're shooting for on the maim or hinder characters. With the Dr. Pepper drinking Halloween there. There you go. The music was very good in the 70s, there is no doubt. There was some music that was a bit too, I don't know, emotional. Is that the word I'm looking for? But there's a lot of good country music come out of the 70s and a whole lot of good rock music come out of the 70s. It was just an interesting time. It was a good decade. And it led into, I read an article the other day that the Zs, the Zoomers, the Generation Z, the youngsters coming up, our kids, they're actually clocking a little bit, and I don't mean this politically conservative, but a little bit conservative in the way they dress and in the way they behave. And it's obviously a reaction to the past couple of decades where things have been free and all of that stuff, whatever. And I was telling my daughter we were talking about it just yesterday, and I was telling her it's exactly like the 70s and 80s. You look at the 60s and you look at the 70s, and man, it's very different than the 40s and 50s, right? The 60s and 70s, it's free love, and the clothing was extraordinarily colorful and loose and scant in many cases. And by the 70s, it went into this crazy. I don't know what was going on in the 70s, but it was nuts. And then the 80s come along, and everyone's like, we're tired of all this, so we're into sweaters, and we're into khaki pants and loafer shoes and the pennies or whatever was going on. So, yeah, it's all cyclic. It was the age of Aquarius. Yep, there you go. It's all cyclic, and we're just fixing to go into a new cycle. And this is why when young people are saying things, older people are just sitting there looking at younger people and thinking, we've heard this 4 times before. And they just move on. My favorite thing I think I've ever seen, the Doobie Brothers, for crying out loud. The favorite thing I've ever seen, when I was in college, I used to eat at this cafeteria called Wyatt's Cafeteria. And I would go just sit by myself. Todd would join me occasionally, but frequently I'd just sit there by myself and eat lunch. and you could look out the window. It was in the mall, and you could look out the window. And this is in the mid '80s, and of course the whole mall walking thing had started. And you would see the little square plant things, whatever they are, where there's benches around them and people sitting around them. It was mostly older men just sitting there saying nothing, talking to nobody, as their wives would do. Yeah, leg warmers, as their wives would do the walkabout, the mall, or what have you. And it was just absolutely fascinating to me to watch these old men who are in their 60s and 70s and probably 80s. They don't say a word. They just sit there. Occasionally one might say something to another one, but these are probably old friends who just they're done. They've lived it all, they've seen it all, and they just don't care. They're just sitting there. I always took great comfort from that. So it was a good time. It was a good time. I'm a Gen Xer who came of age in the '80s and had green hair in high school. Yeah, well, it happened in the '80s, but the '80s calmed down. I mean, if you compare the '70s and '80s, culturally, it's a very different time. It doesn't mean that it wasn't going on, of course. What is that famous movie? Valley Girl. Valley Girl is the perfect example of that break in the crowd, because you've got all the people in the, wait, I'm going to screw that up. The Valley were the rich people, right? I can't remember. I don't know. Wait, yes, because she spoke like a Valley Girl. Chenault suits. Yeah, there's some things about the '80s that don't need to come back. What are those big, giant, flappy pants? What were those things called? Yeah, we don't need any of that. Not cargo pants. Airplane pants? I don't know any of this stuff. I pretty much dressed the same way for the past 40. Parachute pants, there you go. Yeah, we don't need any of that, man. I was a metalhead in the '80s, long hair, leather jacket. There you go. Yeah, you were. I've seen the pictures there. Shell suits. Gen Xers are getting too old to listen to them. Yeah, we're heading very soon to the bench where we're going to be sitting and going, whatever. Horror movies did actually come of their own in the '80s. Hammer pants. Yeah, MC Hammer. Oh yeah. All right, yeah. So anyways, man, I'm just all off track today. So let's let's roll into trick of the trade number 4 in our strange '80s bugaloo, whatever we're doing here. What are we doing on trick of the trade number 4? Twist the reality. What are we doing? Wait, can we say the word bugaloo now? Isn't that been co-opted by some political group?
Oh, I would know.
There's something I heard that the other.
Clean.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. There was something I can't remember. Every time I turn around, they co-opted another word. And I'm like, damn it, quit doing that. You're gonna eat up our language. Okay, so this last one is twist the reality. I identify with this, though. Substitute was with it. It was still, I think I missed the first part of it. Twist this reality. This is where Robert M. and the King in Yellow comes in. Jason, so I got to ask you, so the King in Yellow, that reminds me of True Detective, the first season with Matthew McConaughey and whatever his name is. I love that dude. If you have not seen True Detective season, all of the seasons are fantastic. True Detective season number 1 is through the roof bad. They have a King in Yellow or Yellow King. It's the Yellow King in that. I think that it was. I wonder if that has any kind of relation to what you're talking about there. Yeah, they did it very badly. Okay, there you go. Woody Harrelson. Yeah, if you haven't seen True Detective season 1, it's fantastic. Season 3 is through the roof fantastic. And if you want to know what an Arkansan, so True Detective season 3 takes place in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And if you want to know what an Arkansan in the '70s was like, watch that show. The guy who plays there's a black detective and a white detective. Whoever plays the white detective, he nailed it. I mean, the black actor did a fantastic job, but for nailing that Arkansas in 1970s, just a fantastic show. Okay, got it. Yeah. I didn't know if it had any kind of relation. I'll kind of keep my eye open. I've watched that season twice. I'll keep my eye open when I read that Chambers stuff. Anyways, what are we talking about? Twist the reality. So, so on this one, and this is where you want to take whatever setting that you're in, and you want to tweak it just a little bit. You want to take whatever physics that are governing your setting, your world, and twist them a little bit. Whatever the players are used to, give them something that's extraordinary, not even extraordinary, that's different, that stands out, that draws their attention but doesn't consume their focus. So it's just things that are different, that maybe the shadows that they cast hang differently on the ground. Maybe the ground that they're walking on clings to them a little bit. The trees are a different color. The green of the leaves is so dark that it's almost blue, something like that. Anything that you can do to kind of to tweak the environment, to make them feel as they're staggering forward and they're weathered a little bit from disease or malaise, they've blown their knee out, and now the world around them is not acting the way it's supposed to act, which instantly experienced players will be a little different with inexperienced. But experienced players are going to start questioning what it is they should be doing because the environment is now different. And this goes back into the same kind of thematic thing that we're talking about, is you're just trying to unsettle the players going forward. And hopefully with your descriptions and all the things that we've talked about before, you're actually kind of impacting them somewhat so that they do think about the game, so that it is a horror setting, and that when they leave the table, they're still kind of, a little bit shell-shocked from it. That's what all of these things are kind of going for, and twisting the reality. You don't want to do it too much. You want to go overboard, because if you go, again, we've talked about this before, if you go overboard with this type of stuff, suddenly they're in a fantasy environment, and it's so easy to adjust into a fantasy environment and not worry about anything working correctly or whatever. But if the environment that they're in is just a setting, it's just an environment, and things aren't working correctly, or things are working abnormally is a better way of putting it, then you're going to have a far better chance of unsettling them going forward. So just twist the reality a little bit. Just make it a little bit off kilter. See where we're at. The characters inexplicably get turned around. They're heading for a building they know very well, but it's not where it's supposed to be. They head for bed at the inn, and they find themselves in the middle of the night in the common room with no idea how they got there. Anything like that, yeah, Jason's got a good point. Anything like that just kind of, they just got to question. They got to know what's happening. It's funny because I'm working on the Chaos runes, and what I'm trying to do on these runes, this is for the Adventure Spellbook and the Kickstarter that we're running. What I'm trying to do with these Chaos runes is actually bring chaos to the table as a playable, not necessarily a mechanic, but a playable thing, so that when you're running these Chaos runes, it's not just things going crazy or whatever it is. Things are just not. I think I sent Chuck one of them last night, the particle wave or particle something. I can't remember what I called it. Particle wave. Yeah, where they materialize a small marvel of energy that is extraordinarily heavy, and if they don't hurl it, it actually pulls them to the ground and damages them. But as they throw it, it starts jumping. So you don't, wherever it is depends on where it's going to hit. So if someone's 10 feet from them, it might hit them. If someone's 20 feet, it might hit them. It's kind of it's just chaos. You don't really know what it's going to do. And then I want to build even more chaos into it. So these are the type of things that we're talking about here that to make this actually work. I got to say, I've had for these runes all this other work, and Chuck was the Chuck enjoyed the benefit of my frustration today the most, because I'm deep into these runes for the Adventurer Spellbook, and I got to do 160 of them. I've done 60 so far. I'm so excited about working. I haven't been this excited about working on spells since the founding of the company. I'm super excited about it, and what I'm doing, like for the Chaos runes, I'm watching physics videos. I'm going into videos and watching physics. I have spent since Saturday evening just watching tons of videos, and I don't know anything about physics. I'm a horrible scientist. But it's fascinating reading this stuff, and I'm extracting stuff from physics, especially quantum physics, to use in these chaos spells. Do what, Chuck?
I just thought I need to tell you when we're done. I've got one for you.
Okay, good. Yeah, so it's fascinating. So what I'm really wanting to do is just do rune spells. So that's all. And I got entropy coming up next. That's what I really want to dive into.
What you're saying is my stuff is interrupting you. Me and Tim are interrupting you from your fun.
Yeah. Yes. That's why I kept saying just say yes or no.
I got to get back.
Yeah. I just want to go do this. Yeah. All right. So where are we at? So with a little bit of subtlety. Yeah. So just any of this stuff. And subtlety, Jeffrey, that's the key there. You really want to do subtle. I think that what I did on that horror game I ran a few months ago, when they entered into the environment, which was several miles out, it was about 18 miles out from the actual encounter. So it was a 2-day trip to get there. The forest was unusually dark, and the ground was unusually dark as well. Even when they cast light spells, the ground just stayed light. So they cast Detect Magic, of course, that spell that ruins all of my thought processes, and discovered that there's magic everywhere. There's magic on the ground, and something was clinging to them, just a little bit, like dust. I described it, and it was everywhere. So it was one of those things that they've never experienced this. This isn't normal force. It's not normal dirt. It's not normal dust. It's not ash. It doesn't come from anywhere. There's no sign of where it would fall from or any of that stuff. And of course, it's a shadow rune spell, but they didn't know any of this, and it just was one more thing in the coffin, one more nail in the coffin of making them a little bit unsettled, and subtlety's the key.
Looking back on that, I remember, us being we got pretty tore up over why that was. We tried to figure out what was going on. We had suspicions,
right,
but we wasted probably a good 10, maybe even 20 minutes, and I think we still talked about it afterwards, like in chat behind your back and stuff about it.
Yeah,
that was cool because it really didn't mean anything, but it really had us unsettled.
Yeah, and that was the thing. It had no real impact on anything. And it actually came into play later because when you crossed over into Narhite's mind, into that kind of dimension that you were, if you remember, the sand was doing the same thing for a different reason. And that actually had an impact. But you guys had already become numb to it. So the idea was, this thing is here, but you can't explain it. Okay, but now we got it again. You know what I mean? So it was kind of set there in order to just kind of spur that whole thing on. And I think it went pretty well that everyone stayed unsettled in the game. And that's really what we were shooting for the whole time. Let's see, subtlety is good, and so confusion described it one way to half the group and another way. Now that's very cool. Now DM's right. If you can pull that off, and it's sometimes tough to do because you got to pull players out or ask people to not listen or not, there's a lot of mechanical problems with that. But if you can actually split the party like that, or if you have really good, I'm very fortunate, most of the people, really all of them, but Mac and Chris, very, very religious about not acting on meta content. I mean, and it's a hard thing to do. Let's face it. I mean, it's very hard for a player to not act on something that another player knows. But if you can pull that off, DM, that's a fantastic way of doing it. Because then you've got two groups of people with two different stories, and that just becomes even more unsettling, which is very good. I have no clue what your character thinks is happening until you tell us. Yeah, well, we've talked about that before, definitely. I recommend dumping whenever possible the identification of monsters. The characters are no longer facing orcs. They're facing horrific, vaguely humanoid creatures with jagged mouths, full of oversized teeth and dripping fetid saliva, moving forward in a shuffling gait and making awful ululations. That's a hard word to say there, Jason, from deep in their throat that no human voice could ever produce. That's a great description, but it's a great point because drop using words like orc and ogre and hill. Even if it is an orc, it doesn't matter. Just drop it, because as soon as you say orc, as soon as you say kobold or whatever, they're going to immediately summon a picture in their mind. They're immediately going to assign it, abilities and their armor classes and hit points and all of that stuff, because they're going to go mechanical and they can't help it.
They're going to be stereotyped.
It's just the nature. Absolutely, it's the nature of the beast, and that's, as a player, that's their job, right? Their job is to assess damage or assess danger, in danger, whatever. That's their job. So they're going to immediately kick into that. But if you don't use those words, those names, you're going to be much, much better off. Yeah, it's a great point. Let's see what I think I missed something out there. Yeah, no, that's perfect. Yep, Jason, you're right. Even if they question you on it, move on. I'm all for not naming monsters, but only if the monsters aren't common. If it's a word where orcs and goblins are well known, then just name them. I would be reluctant to name them if you're trying, in this case, Commander, and if you're trying to create this kind of unsettling environment. Now, once they've engaged and they're fighting at a certain point, I mean, you've got 7th, 8th level characters. They're going to be able to discern what it is. And if not, they're going to cast a spell and figure it out one way or the other. So probably at a certain point, you're going to have to do it. But even if you've kind of created an unsettling feel around your characters, then around your monsters, then it's done its job. You've definitely done its job. Give me something I can do with 15,000 channel points. What is it? How do you know what a channel point is?
It's just another feature on the list. Number 5?
One of these days, I'm going to figure out all of this stuff.
The good point about that is if you do, that's great, because they change it about every 4 months. It's really aggravating a little bit.
Let me tell you, I had highlight all the things. I had so much trouble with computers and software yesterday. I was about ready to set something on fire. So let's roll into the last one. We are a little bit over time because I think it's Lord Dalius this time got me off on the thing. So
name that creature. For bonus
right.
there, Stephen.
So, do what?
Name
what do
that
we got
creature.
here? That's not from my book.
Nope, that's from the 𝐓𝐫𝐢𝐜𝐤𝐬.
Oh, shit, I love the art in the 𝐓𝐫𝐢𝐜𝐤𝐬. I always love that art in the 𝐓𝐫𝐢𝐜𝐤𝐬.
I guarantee somebody in the audience knows that. That thing's nasty.
I should know
nasty,
that.
nasty, nasty.
What is that? What do we got there? Someone's going to know what that is.
Highlighting the messages.
Is that how we're getting rid of is that where we're getting rid of the points? Oh yeah, I guess it's getting 100 points gone. That's great. There you go. All right, Brulaf, we'll see you later. Sorry I didn't get to the last one. We're diving in right now. So
That's a Revenant.
A Revenant. Oh, yeah. That's great art. 𝐓𝐫𝐢𝐜𝐤𝐬 just had great art in it. It's that hatching in there. I love that hatching. I think that's what that's called. So shock and awe. So that, the Bush administration, is that who started that whole shock and awe thing back in the first Gulf War? Is that what they did? We're going to hit them with shock and awe. I believe that was Donald Rumsfeld. Well, forget all of your politics. Forget all of your opinions of anything that's happened before. That's a great phrase. Shock and awe is just a fantastic phrase. So hats off to Mr. Rumsfeld for that. And in this one, this is really what. So this whole 5 sessions, we've talked about doing subtle things from colors to sounds to children's laughter to a malaise to all of this stuff. And it's just been subtly building up to this, whatever it is. And all of your players are going to expect a climactic battle. What do they call it in video games? The boss fight. Everyone's going to be expecting the boss fight to come. They're all waiting for it. They know it's happening, especially if you're at the end of the session or the 3 games or whatever. They know it's coming. So the best way to knock the living crap out of every player's kind of perception of what's going to happen next is to have an ability in that monster that does horrific damage. You don't want to necessarily have it do this every round, but you want to hit one player or maybe 2 players. I'm not talking a fireball or a breath weapon, because everyone knows that, but just whatever. They swing a sword, they slam them, they bite them, whatever it is, that does 3d12 points of damage. Because immediately someone takes 32 points of damage, everyone at that table is going to shift gears into a completely different mode, because now it went from being creepy, scary, and unsettling into deadly. So hopefully you've unsettled them and all these things, and suddenly they're going to get killed because the magic user only has 38 hit points. This is what I'm saying. And the fighters maybe got 90, so we're talking 10 blows and everybody's dead. It's just one of those things that shocked everybody right into their core, that now we're facing something that's not just we can't understand it, we don't know what's happening, it's creepy, it's weird, it's unsettling. It just suddenly became insanely deadly. And that's the shock and awe that really should bring it home for you. But again, you got to be careful with that. You don't want to have it every round they're doing 30 to 40 points of damage, because you will annihilate a party. In 6 melee rounds, everybody will be a corpse laying at the table. And see, I one-shot killed my dad's Cimmerian Barbarian in a Conan game, and everyone just, yeah, that's exactly it. That's the thing. You just look at him with a shocked face. That's exactly what I'm talking about, because everybody suddenly wakes up. I cannot count it, and this goes for any game. A good way, and this probably should be a trick of the trade of its own, a good way to wake players up if they're not paying attention or they're bored or they're not getting into the game, is have 30 points of damage done to a player who's got 40 damage or 40 hit points in a single round. Everybody will suddenly be focused, because it goes from this guy interesting to, oh crap, I'm gonna be rolling a new character in 5 minutes. And again, you got to be careful with that. You got to get old school on their asses. Lonely Yeti knows. You got to be careful, because you can easily go overboard with this. You can easily annihilate a party, and if that's your intent, that's fine. But the idea, I'm not for those regular viewers, I'm not a huge fan of TPKs. Players put a lot of work into their characters. You put a lot of work into the game. You're at 7th level. You've played for 2 years and TPK everything, and it's just. It always sounds funny on the internet, but it it never goes over as well, in a long-running game like I tend to run, as you would think. I once contacted a player outside the game before a session and told him, okay, you're going to be the bad guy this round. You've been replaced by a demonic doppelganger, but I don't want to reveal yourself until the very end. Oh, that's very cool. Stefan Portney did that to us in the game that we ran at, he ran for us at whatever Gary Con thing. I don't know, something Luke did. I remember the first group. I have no idea anymore what I'm doing. I just do stuff, and when it's over, just okay, whatever. I remember the first group I played with, when the paladin got whacked. The player was also a newbie to the game, but I could tell he was severely bummed about it. Yeah, it's a balance. It's always a balance. Killing a character is a tough thing to do. I don't like to do it, and it's not that I won't do it. It's not that I pull punches, but I do try to have some kind of apparatus where they can be resurrected or brought back, because it's I don't know. It's a rough thing to do. I don't mind having characters killed. I really don't. I don't play that often. I run games 95% of the time, but when I play, I always play a hero. I try to play a hero. I shouldn't say I'm not a hero because I die, but I try to play heroically.
Dwarven fighter.
Yes, exactly. And I frequently get killed, more often than not. And I think that's one of my favorite scenes in Hollywood is from Reign of Fire, when Matthew McConaughey's character leaps off the tower with the axe into the dragon's mouth. I just love it. It's my favorite scene in the whole movie. If you're gonna lose a character, lose a character. But yeah, killing characters is it's a double-edged sword. It really is. I'll bet it did, Jason. I hate stock monsters, customize them. That's a great idea, Lonely Yeti. Absolutely. I think we've talked about that before. If not, Chuck, we need to look at the tricks of the trade, because that's a great whole panel. Customize monsters. Don't run it out of the book. If you've got anyone that's played for a year or two, or that owns the book, or that has run games, they're going to know exactly what's coming at them. Customize the living crap out of it. And it's easy to do. If you don't like doing it, just open the page to, I don't know, the Manticore, and you want the Manticore to be a little bit different, go to the Chimera and grab an ability and stick it on the Manticore, and you're done. It's not hard to do. Just do it. That's a great point. Sounds like my first Gen Con experience back in 1992 when I was like 16. I think the older guys were just punishing me as some type of initiation ritual. It's possible. And this young whippersnapper, as long as the CK gives the players the expectation that the game is super deadly, then it's okay to kill a PC. Yeah, I think it's okay to kill a PC. I agree with that. And it's okay even in a game that's not. I mean, and the nice thing about RPGs is they're built to bring you back, right? There's resurrection, there's raised dead, there's rods of resurrection. There's all kinds of ways to bring the character back. The land of the dead is an actual thing, so you can come back from it. So the game actually has the mechanic built into it so that you can salvage your game from that. TPKs get a little bit tougher because you've killed the entire party. But even so, killing a player, for me, if it happens, it happens. But I don't drive it in that direction. I'll fudge dice. I'll do all kinds of stuff just because I know how it leaves a rough taste in people's mouth. Right, TPKs are attracted ended for both CK and players when it's a multi-year campaign. Con one sets are, yeah, cons are different. Just sit down and you're just running a what we call around here shit games. Then yeah, it's great. But big campaigns a little bit tougher. The Ever-Dying Hero, my new adventure. Character death in a horror setting seems to be the proper end game. Yeah, that is one way to do it. What I ended up doing, ours didn't actually end with a climactic moment. I mean, it did, I think, for Chris, because he was deep into the mythology of the game, but the horror game I ran, there was no big climactic battle. Now, that's something I want to talk about in another Tricks of the Trade, how to end sessions and how to get around the climactic battle thing, because I think that too often we get caught in this idea that there's a boss at the end of it. And that doesn't necessarily have to be how these things end. And really, it shouldn't. Most of life doesn't end with some climactic moment. Life mostly, events in our lives mostly end with, it's over now. And you get up and you go do something else. So there's a way to weave that into your game that is good for the game. It's good for all the way around. And it actually helps perpetuate campaigns in a huge sort of way. I totally just read that as I hate rock monsters. There's straight points to bring characters back. Yeah, there's all kinds of tools everywhere, and you can borrow them from systems, especially if you're playing something like Castles and Crusades. It's easy as pie to borrow from a system and jam it into CNC. I mean, literally, it's the easiest thing to do. And just do it. The games are built this way, and that's kind of the cool thing about RPGs. They're different, and it's not like the spawning that you get in video games. There's a mythology built into the mechanics of the game that allows whatever you're doing at the table to actually come alive. You know what I mean? The resurrection is part of the game before you ever know how to play the game. So it's not like spawning where you play Grand Theft Auto and you die and you appear again, and then you die and you appear again, and you die and you appear again. That's not what it's like at all. You actually can die and come back, and that's part of the mechanics of the game. It would be a challenge to play a campaign when the main characters keep dying. Yes, it is very difficult. It's very difficult. All right, I think that's it. I think we've gone over as we usually do. But I've been given the finger.
No, that was a finger, not the finger. There's a difference. But I wanted to let everybody know that we're starting up a new show, and I'm not sure if it's going to be weekly or bi-weekly, but coming up Tuesday, we're going to have 2 shows in that day. We're going to have Steve's show normally at, 5 or 4 p.m.?
4 Central.
Tim's going to be doing a World Anvil / Patreon update on Tuesdays. And I'm not sure if it's going to be bi-weekly or weekly. But if you guys could, there's the link right there in the chat. Go over and check out World of Air there and get familiar with it. And, stop by our Discord if you get a chance, if you're not a member of that, because we could use your help with, input on all that. But anyway, that's that. I just wanted to let you guys know Tim will be doing something. It'll be 10 a.m. Central. 10 a.m. Central.
Excellent. That's good. I like to see more stuff popping up on Twitch. Yeah, so next week we're diving into a different subject. We're wrapping up horror now, and I had a thought, but it's now wandered off in my head. But there you go. Spread the word about the channel. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Follow if you haven't. Great talking to you, Lord Dalius, Commander Pete, Jason, everybody. Thanks, Jason, for joining us. Next time I do a bunch of horror stuff, I'll give you a shout and let you know. I'll remember that to include you. Thanks for showing up, Piper. And be safe up there. I know you got a rough road to walk there, Piper. Eric and I go way back, but definitely be safe. You have we do not actually here. Do we? I think we do. Wait, Game Goblins, I think, something like that. I can't remember. I'm mostly just sitting in this chair 24 hours a day working on troll word crap. So I don't know what goes on beyond that window, but I'm sure it's something. At any rate, thanks everybody for showing up. We will be back next Tuesday for World Anvil, next Tuesday at 4 o'clock for Ask Me Anything, and we'll be back again next Thursday at 4 o'clock for GM's Tricks of the Trade. Check out our Patreon, check out all the other stuff. There's just too much to announce. It's just too much. We need to do some kind of voiceover that just says it. I don't have to, because I can't remember all this crap. We got a Kickstarter going on. We got an Indiegogo campaign that we're wrapping up. And it's just too much. I just wore myself out. So, good night, everybody. You all have a great rest of your week and a good weekend.